Hey folks, Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist. Yes, I'll be talking about Prince Harry, but do stay for this video. There's a lot of this that is very much linked to survival preparedness and mostly the mindset and the way of analyzing and reading through what the media presents so as to make you think certain ways. And also, of course, about the awful tragedy that the security detail has here going on with a little box that literally says GLOCK on the side. More on that in a second. Now, first of all, this idea of Prince Harry, well, in case you're not familiar with, Prince Harry is the son of the king of Charles, King Charles, the royal family, the British royal family, and he's in this dispute with his family. Apparently he's been cut off the payroll, and I don't know if the title is, he still holds the title of prince, but more to the case, he's been cut off from the funds that the royal family enjoys. And maybe that's one of the first things to point out. The idea about a lot of people, especially given the way the news, the media presents this, like, oh, look at how awful this guy is. I have no idea if he's a bad person or not. Now, I'm a lot more interested in the idea that he's, now the target of the media, which, by the way, the media mostly owned by the royal family themselves. The royal family is part of the elite that runs a lot of the world, and they own most of these media outlets that are now going after this guy. Now, it seems that he has gone through a lot of the money left by his mother, Diane. Like, I think he has like $10 million, and he's been going through a lot of that in just 2 years. Now, a lot of people are shocked by, oh, look at all of the money that Prince Harry, is costing and spending. Now, I'm surprised by people not realizing how much money, if this guy alone almost goes through $10 million in a couple of years, trying to be somewhat, careful with those funds. Imagine how much money the entire royal family that is not cut out of that, constant stream of money that you are paying for. This is money from the people. These are funds that should be public and should be going to roads, schools, healthcare, the NHS, and so on, right? But it is mind-blowing the amount of money that all of these people cost. And there's this bullshit about, oh no, they really contribute more than they spend, which is all just a big old lie. It's just part of the narrative that, again, the media that they own themselves make sure is constantly put out there and trying to convince the public that that's the case. Now, besides the fact that, they're spending a whole lot of money, and people, instead of wondering why is it that Prince Harry is so mean or Meghan Markle is so nasty or whatever it is that people think these days, why the hell is it that you still have a freaking royal family in 2023? This is medieval. This is from tribal caveman mentality of just because one guy with a big stick or a big sword and a bunch of folks slaughtered a bunch of enemies, they will stay forever in perpetuity as kings and living as kings and being funded by the rest of the society for perpetuity forever until the end of mankind. That makes no sense whatsoever in any rational, civilized society, but well, it is the way it is. Now, it's very interesting to notice how this is also the case in other, parts of the world where you have a very rich, very powerful elite that don't only have immense wealth, more money than you could possibly think or wrap your head around. They enjoy a status above the peasant, above the common man, from a legal point of view as well, even from a religious point of view. They are above the commoner, the peasant, the common man. It's the same way with Arab money and some of the Qatar and these princes, with massive fortunes and always investments in some of these corporations that basically run money for them. Well, that's where it all ends up. Now, how much of a media move this has been in terms of demonizing this guy as if he's a villain. Well, if he's been cut out of the royal family money, I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. Let's talk more about the guys that are still spending, massive amount of money that should probably go elsewhere instead. Well, no, of course, the media, again, owned by the elite themselves, are targeting this dude as, public enemy number one. So it's also interesting to see how whatever British media outlet you go into these days, and I've been looking, this is Daily Mail, it's one of the traditional, more conservative ones. It's been like 2 weeks. The only headline you see is Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and all of this nonsense, while at the same time not talking about a country that is pretty much collapsed. The problem with, inflation, the economic ruin, the NHS completely broken. Everything is a mess. Strikes, it's all impossible out there. And yet the only thing in the news is all covered by Harry and Meghan Markle and her expensive dresses, I guess. It's something that should be concerning. Anyway, you're being manipulated into thinking that this guy is your worst enemy, and at the same time they're covering the really important news that they should be addressing and you should be informed about. So it works both ways. Now, talking about the security detail, this just shows how this guy no longer enjoys the protection on all aspects. Media, finance, government, the elite has all of that. This guy now has to pay for all of that himself. Now, he just did a very nice deal with his book. I think he got $100 million, which is a lot of money. But yet, $100 million compared to the money that the British royal family has, that's a drop in the bucket. That is nothing. So he has to be careful with his expenses, and it's painfully obvious with this picture right here. Dear God, what is wrong with this picture? Everything. You have the guy, Prince Harry, right there. You have the VIP, and you have these two, obviously, security guys. One of them has a little box that says GLOCK, and he's carrying, I don't know what he's carrying. What is that? He has his gun, he has his GLOCK in a little GLOCK suitcase. Is that how he's supposed to protect his VIP? He's going to be opening the box, loading the magazines? No, that's not how it works. You should have your firearm on you at all times. And if you're protecting someone that is kind of like you've been hired to do, you should have instant access to that firearm. You should be carrying it with you at all times, and you should be, getting your hand on that gun immediately. That is apparently not the case. So I assume that he has a GLOCK in here. Now, you could tell me, no, he was traveling to Manhattan, so he had his, and since he's no longer under the umbrella of the royal family elite, he has to travel in, in no longer a private jet, so he has to dispatch this with, rest of the luggage. Well, why are you even carrying it then? I mean, if the gun is not here in this case, and he actually has it in a holster, as I hope he does, why the hell are you still carrying your GLOCK case? This is the kind of thing you do when you go to a shooting range, not when you're actually protecting someone. I mean, hasn't he got like room in the backpack to put it there or leave it in the car? Anywhere other than occupying your hand, which, by the way, is a hand you probably need to protect the dude right in front of you. Pushing people away, someone comes at him with a knife. You need to have your hand free to do a bunch of stuff to do your job. I mean, at the very least, if you have your gun, draw your gun and shoot. Even if you have, your other hand free and you're left-handed, you still need both hands. Why is it that you're occupying one of your hands with a hopefully empty GLOCK case? Just makes no sense whatsoever. Just shows that he's going for a budget security detail right here. This is, less than amateur kind of stuff. You don't see this very often. You don't see something like, this bad in terms of a security detail. Let alone in the United States, where you would suppose that someone that has some knowledge, would be doing a better job than this. Anyway, guys, unless you're Prince Harry, you will be in charge of your own security detail. So for that, street survival skills. If you read this book, you probably would not do stupid stuff like this, like having your hand busy with a empty or full case, which is probably even worse. And of course, for the economic aspect of survival and preparedness, my other book, Surviving the Economic Collapse, which is something you definitely want to get going into 2023, given how things are looking pretty much all over the world. Folks, that's going to be all for now. See you in the next video. Take care.